Blessed love and peace in Rastafari. This is another ditty for the city. Not so nitty gritty, but moderately witty when need be. I think. Whatever. Just again, notes, thoughts. A week ago, a week proceeding, a weekly basis, somewhat like that. Not intentionally, I'm not promising that, but this is part of the regularity because I'm here uploading stuff online again on the grid. So some perspective, because I think it's been about a week, actually about that much since I've been on the grid. So here's some perspective from the off-grid experience. Back in ancient days, it was very difficult to receive a formal education. I'm sitting on the grounds of a moderately elite university, and many buildings, many books. Many studies that are very much unavailable just 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, to 99% of the human population. So it's very easy to take advantage, to take it for granted. There is a notion in ancient days that brethren, particularly brethren, occasionally sister, brethren walking hundreds of kilometers, even occasions of thousands of kilometers, to even just learn to read, to listen to a book being read, particularly the heavy books, the holy books. Arriving at the academies, the schools, the universities, through much labor. And when arriving, tremendous respect, tremendous appreciation, tremendous diligence, concentration, dedication to learn, to study, to absorb as much as possible whilst one is in that environment, to learn to read, to maybe even be bestowed with a book, potentially, and bring it back to one's village, and then share that knowledge accordingly. And it's not just a matter of book learning, it's life, it's learning, it's a way of being, it's a way of living. So, there's a consideration, a comparison of the greater poverty. Whether that greater poverty exists in that village that a man leaves to walk hundreds of kilometers, thousands of kilometers. The corruption, the violence the man leaves in order to learn about the ways of wisdom, how to lead, how to govern, how to judge fairly, to keep the peace, to keep all the sides in comparative copaceticness. Walking hundreds of kilometers, even thousands of kilometers, away from the corruption, away from the violence, to gain that wisdom. So that's on one hand, the poverty that the brothers were walking from, the poverty of corruption and violence that the brothers were walking from to gain that knowledge. That's on one hand. Now on the other hand, we have what is recently experienced in recent weeks. In our endeavor of the schoolhouse, I share a number of books. We share a number of books, which include holy scriptures. And so when the schoolhouse goes on hiatus because of security concerns, traditionally we leave the container with the books as a library for those who have an interest in it. And again, it's books. The street don't care too much about books. And that's not a dig on the street. That's just actuality, because we do this before. We do this on previous occasions. So we leave it there, and it's safe for a while. Then, in recent weeks, when I go to visit the area of the schoolhouse, I see that the container is taken. And like, okay, and it was just disappeared. Then, like a week later or so, I see like for a little bit further away from the original site, in another part of the vicinity, there's the container overturned, empty. And then actually, when I was walking out, I'm just like, wait, what's all this paper doing here? It's just like a lot of litter. And as I was getting closer and closer up, indeed, the container was empty, overturned, and all the books were just strewn up. And again, had been like weeks already up to that point. The books were pretty much gone. Water soaked, just dirty, soiled, and everything else like that. Degradation of holy scriptures and like things that cause like significant strife between communities when done intentionally. How you doing, brother? All right. So the consideration is that the kinfolk most likely the kinfolk who do it don't care one way or the other what the books are, where they come from, what they say. They just know ain't got no market value. So and just what else is in here, and just throwing them all on the ground. So sacrilegious. Now the thing about it is, I can't blame nobody else but myself for making the books available to be treated in that way. So I have to take responsibility for that. So I go back and I recollect the books, particularly the holy books, and we do that. So that's the other hand. The nature of that poverty, when books are just so prevalent. Anything, print. You go to the library and print the Holy Scriptures at this very moment without cost. And then also without perceived culpability. Perceivably without culpability. So that nature, the nature of that poverty, that has the wisdom right there. The wisdom that people walked hundreds and thousands of kilometers to gain, even just to hear. People have it so much, just tossing it away. Which is the greater corruption? Which is the greater violence? Which is the greater poverty that is being experienced between those two circumstances? The one that is ignorant and searches from the ignorance, or the one that is decadent and oblivious? So, and I'm responsible. I'm looking at myself because I'm contributing to that. I'm causing that poverty. I'm making decisions from that poverty of leaving the books there initially. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm like calling myself out in that respect, because I have to answer for that. These books are entrusted to me, and so I have to answer for that. I have to answer for what I've neglected and what I've allowed happen. So, and that's what I consider the greater poverty, because it's one thing to experience the violence and the corruption, and to know, like, yo, there's got to be a better way. I've heard about this other place over there that knows this and the other. Yo, at least we have some answer. But it's another thing to be in the corruption and violence and the poverty, and like not believe in the answers, not believe in the wisdom, not even care about the wisdom. What you don't bother me with that. I can't pay that none of my mind. I gotta focus on my hustle. So, which is the greater poverty? Because when kinfolk have the wisdom, the ancient wisdom from our ancestors, prophets, and sages through thousands of years, when people have that at this moment and can't believe in that, don't believe in that, won't believe in that, what else is there? And I know it's tough to take those things as authority, and additionally, and say, yeah, I ain't trying to hear that yin yang da 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 da. So for the kinfolk like myself who do believe and do practice as much as we can, and do strive to make amends and reconciliation and learn and do better, I think to myself, within the poverty that is experienced today, How do we emerge? How do we cultivate? How do we share? How do we support that interest and that inclination towards fairness and towards truth, wisdom, peace, justice, love, modesty, righteousness? That the knowledge of which, the text, the Holy Scriptures, the guidance, the blueprints of which we have immediate access to. But at the same time, with that immediate access, there's such a realm of distance, a galaxy of distance. Anyway, so that being said, when people do arrive to the teachers, people tend to bring gifts, and particularly in an increasingly immediate sense, when there's a village and there's a priest or there's a teacher, there's a sage, a prophet living nearby. Part of the protocol is bringing some food, bringing the fire to study with, and additionally, because that's what the teacher needs to be in life. And so at the moment, I'm playing the teacher here. That's what I'm doing. This is what this is supposed to be. I'm sharing some lectures, a devora. It's a dharma talk. We can call it even dawa. However, whatever label we want to put to it. That's what I'm doing here. Now, dawa is different because there's not an obligation in terms of necessarily providing compensation for it. So it's less of a teacher kind of student type thing. But I'm sharing knowledge, if I may be so presumptuous. But it requires sustenance. It requires materiality in the mutuality. And without that, I have to be mindful of how I share it, because it's not a quid pro quo, but I have an obligation. I have to share this, but at the same time, I have to share this in a way that's productive to people who are responsive, to people who are respectful, to people who are heedful. And it's interesting because there's duality in terms of the guidance of my obligation. In some ways, I'm just categorically obligated to have to share whenever it's asked. Share whenever there's a slight solicitation. Share. There's other guidance that I receive, equally authoritative, and additionally it says, only share with kinfolk who are qualified. And it's not a matter of being exclusive or segregation, but just recognizing just because somebody has an interest doesn't mean that they're going to be utilizing anything. What's their track record? What are they showing? That they have the discipline or the previous knowledge to receive what is to be shared. So anyways, there's a gamut, and so I share as I best perceive as appropriate. But what I recognize, again, particularly in terms of these joints, as I keep doing this for weeks and months and maybe even years at this point, is that I'm getting off this methodology in terms of just sharing in general. So that's what the school is about. We have a tent now, so the school is up. We still got to do some adjustments to make it genuinely welcoming and comfortable and secure. So that's where the attention is provided. That's where the concentration is placed. That's where the emphasis is placed, and so that's where my efforts are placed, rather than doing these joints. Now, for kinfolk who are online, we are cultivating. We're in the works of cultivating things that are along these lines, that are regular, but at the same time involve some type of mutual commitment in terms of regularity and support. So it's not just things that are picked up here and there, and that was nice and da-da-da, and nothing happens from that, or very little happens from it, but something that's increasingly intentional and ongoing. So we're working on the mechanics of that with brethren and sistren, within Rastafari, within the mixed community, within the world spheres. So that's what we are cultivating at this moment, by the grace and divine will of the Most High Elohim, and in accordance with the teachings of His Majesty Haile Selassie and Her Majesty Waizar Amanin, and all our prophets, ancestors, sages, past and present, known and unknown. So that's where it is. So we're also mindful of this thing. When we I shared before about the notion of technology and how technology basically simply just provides people an opportunity or a better, greater advantage to extract from the garden and to compete with others in getting a larger chunk of the garden. Um, but technology technically is not necessary. And the investment of oneself in technology is at the cost of oneself. So I'm going further on that particular notion of that, of what we give up in that process of technology. I talk about the Oracle, the Glow, this, that, and the other. Um, so plain and simple, it's beneficial to recognize in the hierarchies of convention, of money and everything else like that. All these are man constructs, man's imagination, man's mind, and how much others lend themselves to another man's mind, other men's mind, for the sake of having some advantage or perceived advantage in competing with other men. So, in that process, again, a man loses his sense of self by um, relying and depending upon another man's imagination, another man's uh, foibles, and otherwise, greed, hatred, delusion, and further. So, technology and everything else. I mean, it's very difficult to avoid. I mean, this is part of what we have to wrestle with in life. But it's beneficial to recognize that. So even when cats have high like standing within these constructs, it's beneficial to recognize this, and to help provide some balance in the experience of leverage and negotiation. To recognize this, and this is what I'm sharing. This is like the thing that's recently shared. When we partake of technology, when we partake of the constructs of another man, we are giving up a part of our soul. And I'm very hesitant and uncomfortable in saying that words, because when we talk about soul and spirit, that's something that's sacred. It's beyond our knowledge. It's beyond our temporal knowledge, and it's definitely beyond our temporal language. So I'm very careful about having that conversation, because so many people just like reference the soul, and then start conjuring all types of threats and curses and invitations as a premise for and a pretense for enslaving others into guilt or obedience or whatever else. So that's not my point here. I'm just studying, and so we can talk about what the soul is, but for the moment I'm going with that, and I'm sharing. I'm just articulating like the phenomena that I am observing, and the phenomena that I'm observing is that people give up a portion of people's respective soul when accepting and holding on to the imaginings, the creations, the ideas, the inventions of another man. Technology is ideas upon ideas, because it's a confluence. It's compounded ideas built from methodologies of science and industry to do that. So it's like a very intense provision coming from the part of the science. So in return, a person's giving up part of their soul. And again, we can talk about what that looks like, but I'm going to share like a basic description of like a severe case of what that looks like. When somebody gives up so much of their soul in addition, and it's not no better or no worse than anybody else, because anybody who doesn't give up their soul has an extreme severe obligation of providing empathy and compassion, encouragement, and inspiration for kinfolk to be well, and even not even necessarily to like regain their soul per se, but just to be optimally healthy. Because, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. So my point is not to be judgmental. It's just we have to look at things, and we have to like observe and like see like what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what the cause and effect is. And so that's what I observe as I sit here by myself on the ground against this building, talking about losing a soul to technology, to some inanimate portion of technology. So. And I'm going to put a clock on this joint. Haha. So, A severe example of that is this, and there's a point, there's a further point, and it doesn't get any easier, but there is a further point to this, so there's a purpose to this. But oh yeah, and also I made a gesture about media before, in terms of this. I think this actually means wind it up, like wrap it up. This means keep it going, keep talking, keep talking. This means, yo, wrap up. It's time to go. Let's go. So, anyways, potato, potato. Severe case of relinquishing, giving up one's soul in exchange for, and again, it could be technology, it could be money, anything that comes from man construct. It doesn't have to even just be that, but money, fame, celebrity, status, society status, credentials, all that. A person sacrifices their soul, and by soul, it's a matter of relationship with God, relationship with the universe, knowledge of self, where a person comes from, a knowledge of one's ancestry, language, culture, history, rituals, practices, songs, stories, sense of peace, tranquility, belonging, relationship with nature, all those things, that serenity, that confidence, that love. That's what people give up when biting a bigger part of the man's creation. So what that looks like is that a severe case is that a person is just a shell. A person is just a shell. They don't say much. They're present. And there's a listlessness, almost on the verge of catatonic. Like people are functional, but like there's the people are without a personal story. People are without like are without so many other things. Might have like credentials, protection, money, comfort, all these other type of stuff. But other than that, there's the interior is empty. So, and empty not in a Buddhist positive sense, but empty in terms of like of a void, schism kind of sense. So that's what it looks like. Now, that is not actually the furthest example. That's like the further end of the spectrum, because there's another component as well. So the other component is that people can get those things. People can get the money, can get the celebrity, can get the standing, the credentials, and additionally, and still have personality, have charisma, and everything else like that. But when that is the case, when somebody does have personality, that means that person is eating other people. Literally. And that sounds crazy, that sounds nasty, that sounds heinous, that sounds like, what are you talking about? I'm leaving it at that. When a person has those things, has the things of man's creation, a person gives up the interior of oneself and becomes a shell. And again, the person needs protection and all these other things to people to do all like the physical work and everything, because the person is very gone. And so they're very strong within civilization, within the hierarchy. They're very strong like mechanisms to provide that type of thing, because people are like, it's like the pyramid. People are vying to get up there too. So there's a very strong barriers to have access to people in that kind of experience, but shells. But that being said, again, those who don't have shells. Well, I know this person. They have personally, they're the life of the party. This and the other. And people with personality in those positions eat other people, and that is where the personality is gleaned from. That's huge. That's a strong accusation. Interesting. If in Torah, if somebody accuses somebody else, there's necessity of bearing witness, and if that person is found to be a false witness, that they're lying, then whatever penalty was adhere um, whatever penalty was assigned for that crime that was accused actually is imposed upon the false witness. So that slows people up in making false accusations, groundless accusations. And so when I make that statement about people losing soul and eating other people, those are strong statements. What am I basing that from? What is my evidence? Because without that, I am susceptible to that punishment. What is the punishment? I'm not even condemning people to hell, because everybody goes to heaven. So that's not what I am imposing. That's not what I am threatening. That's not what I am wishing. I'm not trying to get too much enveloped in this as well, because there's other priorities. But there is an element within the shared consciousness that is interested in hearing an articulation of further rationalization or reasoning of what I just proclaimed. So, what I will articulate is the first stage of the assertion, the first premise, which is that when somebody accepts the creations of man, that person forfeits, gives up, relinquishes a portion of a person's soul. I articulated to certain specificity what I mean by the soul. I talk about love, truth, relationship, God, universe, ancestors, family, nature, all that. And then with that, the sense of peace, belonging, tranquility, again, love, in that rootedness, that sense of belonging, that sense of connection. So those are some of the descriptors concerning soul. Excuse me. So when a person grabs or holds or accepts what another man is providing, technology, fame, money, that's intrinsically part of the exchange. A person gives up some of oneself. When a person goes to university, a person leaves their house, leaves their family, leaves their city often, travels distance, and then leaves the relationships the person has to like learn and study, to get connected and everything else like that in the society's construct, in man's constructs. And so that's part of giving up a soul. To be honest, that's facts. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. So now people can argue that, people can disagree with that. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm not trying to impose it. I'm not trying to preach it. I'm studying and I'm sharing notes in my studies. And I've reached a certain level of studies where I'm a graduate now, and so I'm a graduate student. I'm a graduate teacher. I am a professor. So that's not literal, and that's actual facts as well. So anyways, that's what I'm talking about in terms of relinquishing a portion. And it's not a category. It's not absolute. It's a portion. Because if it was absolute, it'd be easy to say no. So it's a portion, and it becomes increasing as people increase in the game, which is why people get further malaise and everything else. Peace and blessings, Maha. So that is what I'm referencing. Now what am I talking about when it's like, what about the example of so and so, and they have personality and they have a lifestyle and they have a family, this, that, and the other. So there are all types of presumptions about people's lives and what the nature of those lives are. And additionally, and I'm not inviting like further intrusion in people's lives to prove what the quality of those relationships were, because I'm not in a position myself personally to like say what is like a healthy marriage, what is healthy parentage, in addition, because I have yet to experience that and live that myself, observing. Um, and so, and this is through significant years and proximities of experience in observance and living. So, and particularly in recent years of like seeing life and people and hearing testimony from other people. And what I recognize again in this experience of predatoriness is that people live off other people. That's eating other people, and that means literally being carnivores and eating the flesh of other people. We can talk about blood transfusions and organ donations, and people's deterioration of physical health to the requirement of needing healthy bodies to replace the failing parts that people that are going in atrophy because people spend their time doing this type of stuff and not being active and living healthy within the garden. So that's eating other people, and particularly when people have personality. And additionally, part of the nature of eating other people is again enslaving other people, belittling other people, but actually like literally eating other people. So how much do I need to like go further into that? And people don't want to think about that, but that's the things that are involved. So all that being said, um, I'm gonna leave it at that. And cats can argue. Cats can. I'm not condemning anyone to hell, because people are already experiencing that. That's not a punishment. That's the actuality that people are already experiencing. So that I'm not wishing that on anybody. I'm not wishing any punishment on anybody. I'm sharing this in the interest of health for those who experience that, and I'm also sharing it in the interest of health for those who are thinking about decisions in that respect. So that is the purpose. And again, like I said, everybody goes to heaven. We all answer for everything we do, say, and think. So we have that responsibility. But anyway, so there's that. I've gone enough on that. On to the next joint. Nature, technology, and balance. So it might sound like I am a nature extremist. I'm just like down with technology, and I'm not calling technology evil, and that might be a fair presumption or accusation about, like, I keep talking about man's creation and taking the soul and everything else like that. It's part of the nature of life, and it's a matter of making decisions judiciously and accordingly in that respect. So that is, I can be accused of being a nature extremist, and I don't necessarily negate it or deny that, because I'm less concerned about being labeled, and I'm increasingly interested in identifying what I am a protagonist of. So, and I am a protagonist of nature, but I'm also a protagonist of balance, and I recognize there's certain, can I say there's legitimacy within technology? It's fair to say that there's an element of legitimacy. I mean, even a simple stick digging into the dirt is a form of technology. So that it would be an interesting conversation, because if I acquiesce to there being some type of intrinsic inherent legitimacy within technology, then there's a slippery slope, susceptibility and actuality of like legitimization and rationalization for any and all technology. So I'm leery of opening that Pandora box. Haha, how about that technology? So, but it's difficult to categorically like deny the legitimacy or the purpose, or there being a purpose within technology, because even language itself is a type of technology. So I guess the beneficial consideration is the purpose within the technology, and recognizing. See, I'm going back into that notion of, well, all technology is supposed to be taking from the garden and this, that, and the other. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the degrees of technology, because I guess what my hesitancy is doing is holding on to some type of meaty middle path where at some point on that spectrum there's like a shift, where on one side the technology is harmonious, and on the other side of the technology is antagonistic. And that might sound contradictory to my absolute statement or my quasi-absolute statement about technology just being providing people with a better, being able to get a bigger part of the garden. We all eat from the garden, so now I'm getting into the equivocations and nullifications essentially. So, anyways, I'm gonna, if others want to revel in those contradictions and hypocrisy, there's actually um, formidable space grounds for discussion and learning in that kind of in those gaps and additionally, but that's not my purpose for the moment. So meanwhile, um, what the emphasis is finding balance within nature and technology, recognizing that it's very comfortable to say there being an imbalance of technology at the moment, towards technology, amidst technology, and how that imposes upon others who have further value and um, appreciation and relationship with nature. So um, pollution, infrastructure, and confinement, laws that restrict people's relationship with nature in terms of habitation and agriculture and otherwise. So um, some of that is just the territoriality of civilization. Some of that is the territoriality of just life. Even animals do that too. But at the same time, a lot of it is just predatory apartheid. So that being said, our methodology in these circumstances, in these conditions, is small, quiet, and regular. To focus, to make our endeavors, our initiatives, our projects small and immediate, not trying to like overthrow systems and change like macro policies or whatever else, but just focusing on the small steps at the moment, the immediate priorities, securing homestead, land, and provisions for our family, and school education, and building experience of village. So it doesn't have to be some macro policy change and getting on bandwagons of campaigns and this and the other. I'm not trying to down that. I might sound flippant towards that or disrespectful, but I'm just saying like it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of concentration, it takes a lot of attention away from actually getting things done. So we got, and it's actually based upon the presumption that everybody else is okay anyways, when that's not the situation. So it's being mindful of that, because a lot of that just continues to serve the predatory system, and is actually not intended to actually get anything done. So I gotta be positive now. All right. So, anyways, there's that. Excuse me. Small. Focusing on what we can attain, not just what we can attain, but what the priorities are, and then how we achieve those priorities, step by step, and then quiet. Again, not just like doing an open call, going on a loudspeaker on the bullhorn or whatever, and just like trying to recruit people to get on board our bandwagon just so we have further numbers, because those numbers, when not concentrated, just dilute the concentration. Then there becomes power hungry, power wrestling or whatever. People just vying to get control and try to do things a certain way. So it's like, yo, we don't have to big numbers. We don't have to like just put an open call for everybody to just jump on board. Let's stay concentrated. Let's focus on people who have like mind and like discipline. That's essential. Discipline. Undisciplined allies are often much further detrimental to a cause than disciplined adversaries. So, like, we're not trying to make open calls like these joints are. It's a matter of discipline and focus. So we're keeping it small, we're keeping it quiet, and then regular, weekly, monthly. Keeping communication, keep building, keep momentum, keep in ties with each other, support, and further. So that's what the emphasis is here. Then the complementary trifecta to that is relationship, intensity, and truth. So again, we are focusing on our relationship with each other, our relationship with the land where we live, the nature where we live, all our relatives of the creation, our relationship with the universe, our relationship with the Most High, Elohim, by whatever name we refer to the Most High with. including when utilizing a preposition to conclude a sentence. A. And then also, all right, and then also intensity. Again, keeping the intensity, keeping the concentration. When we do that, when we focus small, when we focus on quiet, we do it regular. We're building the light, and we're concentrating that light, so it's intensity. And so when we're doing there's potency within what we're doing. Like it's getting done. There's gravitation, like it's magnetic. People, it resonates with people. And then when like a drought hits, it's like building plants, flowers and trees and forests, just from that energy, from that intensity. So that's cultivated through that small, quiet, regular. And then truth, making sure we staying honest. We in this path, we in this trod, and we're keeping it righteous. So focused, not getting caught up with temptations and challenges and tests, but keeping it truth. So small, quiet, regular, relationship, intensity, and truth. So that's the trifecta. That being said, I shared recently a ethical welfare program joint that has some resonance with kinfolk I share it with, and I share that as a practical solution for those who have the inclination and the discipline to live in a disciplined way. Discipline. One Love Co-Counseling Network. So again, I'm leery about just like spilling all the beans on this joint, because this is something that's nascent and there's a lot of communication still to cultivate. But what I will share is the endeavor of co-counseling networks. All right, brother. And co-counseling networks are something that exists for many years at this point, and provide mutual support that is meaningful, but at the same time abstains from requiring proclamations of faith or socioeconomic allegiances or otherwise. So I'm learning about the methodology from trusted kinfolk, and gradually building that methodology within the work that we're already doing, and specifically within the context of multiculturalism, the mixed faith experience, Rastafari, and additionally, each of these constituencies exist at different levels of readiness. So we are proceeding accordingly. What I will share is that we emphasize the protocols in this nascent endeavor, which is, again, one love, respect and share one love. The respect and share coming from the guidance of indigenous leadership, particularly the Honorable Chief Oren Lyons from Seneca, Wolf Clan, and in addition to that, this burgeoning co-counseling network being predicated upon the principles of Panchasilas: peace, sharing, chastity, honesty, sobriety. And the vision of this One Love co-counseling network is sharing organically growing clan. And in the traditional native custom, matrilineal clans, chiefs, male chiefs, making the decisions for tribes, and those male chiefs being appointed by the matriarchs tending to the relationships within families and within the clans, and being the stewards of the social fabric of the villages and kinfolk. And Uh, that's the vision. So, all that being said, I will conclude this joint with this. We have powerful medicine, and again, this is by the grace of the Most High Elohim. We have powerful medicine, and rather than just like going on to some this spiel of self proclamation, whatever, I'll just communicate the nature of this powerful medicine. That includes where the powerful medicine comes from, right? Where the powerful medicine comes from, and how it is shared. So, um, it's high potency healing medicine, and it comes from ancient wisdom. It comes from personal discipline. It comes from street credibility. It comes from bourgeoisie education. It comes from one love pluralism, and it comes from respect and relationship with nature. So those are the characteristics of this high potency healing medicine for the world. Ancient wisdom, personal discipline, street credibility, bourgeoisie education, one love pluralism, and nature. So the way this high medicine, this high potency healing medicine is shared is via music, via education, via reasoning, via storytelling, via songs, via educulture, educational culture. So that is how the medicine is shared. You can say disseminated, but that's somewhat of a negative. It's a little bit of a negative terminology. That is how the service is provided, and from there is healing, there is well-being, and it is applicable, it is available for the world. And it's not a matter of like the world signing up to anything or whatever else, but it's just a matter of recognizing what the necessity, what the needs are at this moment, and that this is provided for those who have the interest, the inclination. So anyways, that's part of the exchange. That being said, respect and honor to His Majesty Haile Selassie I, respect and honor to Her Majesty Waizara Manen, respect and honor to all our ancestors, to all our prophets, and to all our sages, past and present, known and unknown. All thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim, and blessed love and peace and Rastafari.